Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode. We're starting things off today here in the quad witch hut perimeter, in which we have been doing hella work. I have been the busiest of boys, and let me tell you, it has not been easy. There's been some good, some bads. I've learned some lessons throughout all of this stuff, and honestly, I think it's projects like this that generally make you a better player, or just general life lessons that need to be learned when doing all of these things. So let's take a little tour first of all around the witch hut perimeter and see what kind of things have been going on. So first of all, you can see I have taken out a considerable amount of the walls, or like kind of lined them up on this side here since the last episode that you saw. In fact, I believe from the last episode that the recordings that I did end up doing were mostly just to do with kind of getting a bit of the slice broken up over here. And since then, well, I've broken a lot. And to be perfectly honest, last time that I did the recording, we were already about a week or so behind. So when you consider the time that it's taken for this video to come out too, you can imagine that the progress has been quite significant. Now, let me explain some of the goods and the bads to you. The good idea for me, to be honest with you, and the thing that reaffirmed more than anything, was the fact that using the wild eaters was more than essential than I thought initially. Now, I mentioned this last time and I'll mention it again, and the reason for that is because even this little bit of sections that you see here where I've kind of hand mined out, and by the way, you can actually see from the floor, the actual bits that I have actually ended up even mining out, which isn't that much. It took a lot of time to do this. As of right now, from what I'm recording, it's taken me probably about 4 days, obviously on and off, maybe even a little bit more, to just even get this kind of stuff done. And let me tell you, I know people really do love to hand dig, and honestly, God bless you if you do. I don't. I definitely don't. And you know what? It's fun to do sometimes. It's kind of therapeutic. But the real truth behind all of this is that I'm ultimately trying to achieve a goal here, and the goal is not to dig. The goal here is to create the perimeter and to have a cool witch farm ready here. And let me tell you, digging's grindy. And in addition to grindy projects like digging, I'm also going to have a lot more on my hand, like placing the walls, placing the floor, building up each witch hut, building up a design around it. I've got my fair share of grindy coming towards me, and I just don't like the idea of digging. So one of the other things I learned in this whole situation is, in addition to the fact that I don't like digging, there is ways around this. Now, I was kind of aware of this process a little while ago, and I really should have thought about it before, and that is actually you can get a circular wild eater. Well, it's not a wild eater, it's pretty much just like the one that you see up there, but it kind of works in any shape that you like with just a little bit more preparation. If I do another circular perimeter again, which I'm kind of considering, I'm definitely going to be using that machine. I don't have the link for it now. It's in my Discord, and I'll see if I can pull it up and leave it in the description, but it works out really well, and I think it's something that I'll consider next time. Another thing I didn't quite realize was just how much effort it's going to be to remove the lava. Now, I have considered a few methods of removing the lava. One of them was to fill it up with like gravity blocks, so like gravel or sand. That didn't end up being my favorite option to go for. My favorite option ended up being using buckets, and I've ended up using a lot of buckets so far already. Like, I'm talking like 5, 6, maybe even 7 shulker boxes of buckets, maybe more than that, and I've just completely forgotten how many I've used at this point. I've wasted so much iron on buckets, it's kind of sad. And RIP to all the fallen golems that had to sacrifice themselves, dying in lava, ironically, in order to be recycled into buckets that ultimately were removed by lava and then also burned in lava as well. I guess that's the circle of life, or Minecraft life, or an Iron Golem's Minecraft life. Either way, I have realized that there was a lot of lava and bucket use in order to get this done. But let me tell you, buckets, definitely the way to go. With a nice fast clicker and a bunch of iron in order for you to be able to do it, it was definitely the option that I'm glad that I went for. So having a look around now, I kind of wanted to think about what how long this whole task is going to take me. So you can see a few smaller wild eaters, or should I say, small TNT bombers here that I've used to kind of clear out a little bit more of these sections here. They were honestly just like, after I dug out this large section here, which you can see this is the largest part that I've had to dig out so far, if I get a little bit closer. This was a pretty considerable chunk that I dug out. Once I realized just how much work digging out this was, I was like, yeah, there's absolutely no way I'm going to be doing larger pockets like this again anymore. So instead, I'm going to spend the extra 20 minutes it takes to set one of those up and take out as much of the extra bits that I can. So I've taken out a good amount. There's still this little chunk over here, which actually shouldn't be too much. It's not all that bad. And even along those sides, most of those shouldn't be all that bad. This is pretty thin now, actually. If you come over to this part over here, this is actually only a few blocks wide. Even at its thickest point, it only comes out to about here. Not bad at all. I can handle that pretty easily. So actually, one of the advantages of hand digging was supposed to be resource collecting. So initially, when I wanted to hand dig the whole perimeter, I was like, oh, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to collect as many resources as I can. So as you may have saw earlier on, I have set up a little, a mini base, a little home away from home, if you will, over here in the witch farm perimeter, just to house, some of the old shulker boxes for use for items. The once were iron bucket boxes over here. We've collected some gravel, some fire resistance, so we can go in deep diving into the lava and bucket out all of the main bits of lava. Some sponges, all that good stuff. But the other really important thing that I ended up setting up here was this system here. So this is just a quick drop-off system for all the items that I will have, like stone, granite, all that good stuff. I'll just chuck them all in here. They get spat out into a water stream, and then they're going into shulker loaders. And let me tell you, if there's anything that's decent out of this, it's resource collecting. So I've got a couple boxes of andesite, a couple boxes of diorite, a couple boxes of granite. Nothing special on these ones. Dirt we got a good amount of as well, which is pretty good. This was mostly from the beginning when we were clearing out the top layer. But stone, let me tell you, we got some stone. We got stone for days at this point. If I'm going to be making repeaters, I don't think I'm going to be having any problems making repeaters anymore. And this isn't even all of it. We still got all of this stuff to do. We still got all of these little edges to cut out. So we're going to have hella resources when it comes down to it. But again, long-term project, probably going to be, I would hope that I can get this done within another week or so if I dedicate my time and effort into it. But I'll be very honest, this could end up taking me another 2 or 3 weeks if I'm, going at the kind of pace I'm going at now, which is kind of a bit more leisurely. I don't want to rush through the project. I do want to get it done quickly, but also I don't have many hours to dedicate into this project. I don't do, obviously, this thing as full time. This is all fun, and I'm going to continue trying to make it so, because you know what? If I end up trying too hard and trying to get this done in a certain time frame, I just feel like it becomes too grindy, and then ultimately it loses all of its allure. So hopefully within the next week or two, but probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have all of this done. I actually forgot to mention one more thing in the whole plan of resource gathering. I actually gathered some ores as well. So in this whole process, I've just been manually putting away the ores that I've been collecting, and I've got quite a few decent amount of ores at this point. So I've got those 4 shulker boxes there. I've also got a little bit more going on this side as well. So we're looking pretty good on the ore resource gathering. Now, honestly speaking, I don't actually need any coal, iron, or redstone for that matter. So the reason for me even collecting this in the first place is not really just for the actual resources, it's for the ore block itself. So I think a plan that's going to be happening in the future, probably in 1.17, is I'm planning on making a super smelter. So if any of you follow the channel, you probably know that I have seen by now that I tend to love super smelters and building smelter arrays and all that kind of stuff. But ironically, I don't really have one in my world. Sadly enough, at the moment, the thing that I'm using is this. This absolutely stupid and non-logical setup for a person who likes to make super smelters and for some reason hasn't made any smelter array at all in his world. So these 8 furnaces and these 2 up here are my furnace array. Kind of sad and a little bit depressing if I'm totally honest, and I was kind of called out on this whole situation quite recently, so now I feel a little bit embarrassed. But you know what? Honestly, I haven't really needed a smelter array for anything at the moment. And it was something that I used a lot for in my previous world, which is where I got started with smelter arrays in the first place. But I am going to be needing one probably in the future because I'm going to be needing a lot of glass and a lot of smeltable items anyway. So I'm saving that for a project for 1.17. So one of the things I'm planning on doing in 1.17 is taking one of the existing caves that are probably going to be end up generating in the world, and it's creating a bit of a cool, like, I'm going to call it a mineral rich or an ore rich. Let me start that again. I'm going to be building a ore-rich smelter array mine thing. It's really hard for me to actually get into words to what I'm actually thinking in my head and for it to make sense. But essentially, I'm going to be taking an existing cave and filling it up with lots of ores and making it look all fancy and maybe having it look like it used to be like an old mine. And I'm going to have the massive smelter array in there. So it's going to be a huge project, another one of the huge projects that I'm going to be adding to my list. And so that was one of the reasons why I even really bothered gathering the ores. I just thought it'd be a cool addition to the whole thing. But anyway, enough babbling on about all these smelter arrays and diggies. We need to get on to what the main part of this episode here today is, which you've probably already seen from the title of the video, so no big surprises. But we're going to be working on a nice double blaze farm today. So I've had a plan for a double blaze farm for quite some time. I've obviously, if you've been following the series, in addition to smelter arrays, my newest project has been the potion brewing station, which you see here. And if you followed the last episode, you would have seen I'm quite a bit along with trying to gather all the products. In fact, probably from the last time that you saw, I can't actually remember anymore from my memory, but you may or may not have seen that I have upgraded the amount of products that we have available here at the good old furnace array. So we've got, the swiftness, we've got the slowness, we've got slow falling, visibility, we've got a couple of things here and there, so we're pretty good to go. But one of the things we're missing, and, this is in addition to leaping, which I'm probably never going to get at this point because, who needs leaping potions? And also that's kind of a pain in my butt. But the other thing we're going to need is strength potion. So I decided that obviously, considering this whole thing kind of runs on blaze powder and blaze powder is needed for the strength potions, we should get working on a double, on like a decent source of blaze powder, blaze rods, you get it. So I have obviously been working on a little doohickey, little design, little project. So let's pop into my little creative test world where I've been working on it, and let's have a look at what I've come up with. Okay, so here we are in a creative test world where I've been working on a blaze spawner. I actually had this in a physical version of my world so I could get the difference between the blazes right. So when I did this, I was actually doing it in the nether fortress that I was going to plan on building it in. I've just brought it into another world just so it's a little bit less jarring to look at what's in the nether. So essentially the design I've ended up going for here is one that was actually used by Logical Geek Boy. It's probably the only time I've really seen it used properly before. I don't know if he was the inventor or, the thought maker of the idea in the first place, but it was a really cool idea that I thought that kind of made it a little bit easier to collect all the blazes in one central location without having to go through, a ridiculous amount of effort, for example. So essentially all that's happening here is that the blazes are being spawned from the spawner, and once they go into the spawner, they are pushed in by the lava mechanics of 1.16 into a centralized location, usually in this little sliver right over here. At this point, both sides are having it loaded, and the player who's AFK in between that bit, which we'll have a look at in a second, is activating both the blaze spawners at the same time. They land on this little section over here, and then basically what we do is we have minecarts pick them up and take them to another location. So what we'll do is we'll go and check on our little friend inside of here. So we've got an AFK bot in the name of Blaze hitting up the section where all the blazes are going to land. And we basically have to activate the farm. In order to activate the farm, it's pretty straightforward. We just go ahead when we enter into the building as if we were playing ourselves. We'd hit the note block. That will start off the clocks, which will start collecting the blazes into minecarts. Minecarts will pick up the blazes, and then basically the blazes will be pushed through blocks on their way up to the top. But the reason for doing this is because the blazes will basically end up at a one-hit kill once they end up in the center, and that is to stop them from freaking out once they're in the middle. Now, you can see here they're already freaking out based on the guys who are being killed in there. I believe that's because the intervals are a little bit too high for my guy Blaze over here, so we're going to go ahead and turn him down from being too excited. Okay, so I've just reset the attack count on the player, so he should be hitting a little bit more sensitively now. So essentially all that's happening now is he should be hitting a little bit less aggressively, which means we should be having no problems when it comes to the blazes anymore. So anyway, as I mentioned before, the blazes end up on the bottom section here. They'll be picked up by minecarts eventually. Sometimes it does miss, it's no big deal if it does. And they will get picked up, taken up the little loop here, hurt on their way up, and end up in the central section. Now what happens here, when they get up to this point, they end up on an activator rail, which will push them onto this little block right here, which hopefully we'll see a little example of right there, as you just saw. And once they end up on the pressure plate, they get pushed into the central location, and then they are swiped away by our friend down the bottom, usually going to be the player itself, e.g. me. Really easy, straightforward design. It was a little bit difficult because there were some shortfalls that came along the way. Like originally I had it so they were just pushed into the central location without the piston, so the activator rail pushed them into the central location. But because of the spacing, for some reason the minecarts, when they would dump one out, they would pick one up, and it was really strange. It just didn't make any sense. So ultimately I ended up having to split them out on top of the piston and then pushed into the center location there. Obviously, at that point, the minecarts, once they dispense the blaze from the center, the minecarts are destroyed by the cactus, and then they are then recycled back into the system, into this double chest over here. And then the cycle basically just repeats on and on. You can see no angry blaze this time because they're not... You need to have a slightly smaller interval in between hitting the blazes. Sometimes you can hit them too fast, you might hit them in the wrong way, and you don't end up having their desired effect of death, which is ultimately what ends up happening to them. They will detect a blaze that didn't end up getting killed because you hit it at the wrong time, and then they end up flying up, and then the whole farm becomes a little bit inefficient. Obviously, all the drops are picked up from this little bit here where the carpet is, where they land. All the drops are picked up into here, and then we are now putting them into shulker loaders. Ignore the one piece of redstone that was probably from a little bit of testing. And then the shulker boxes will be spat back out into the system, up the dropper elevator, and into this double chest here for me to collect on my way outside of AFK. So you kind of get the gist of this whole blaze farm. It's pretty straightforward design, nothing crazy, nothing too over the top, but I thought it was really good. I'm going to go ahead and leave the download for this, wild download, or the this whole thing that I'm in the wild download section in my Discord. So if you want to have a little play with it, you can do yourself. And actually, you could probably customize this to make it work to most double blazes. As long as they're within a certain amount of space, you should be able to get this to work, as long as you use like the same amount of blocks without actually killing the blaze, but still having it hurt enough that it actually is a one-hit kill by the time it gets to you. If you have any questions, you can hit me up in the comment section down below, or hit me up in the Discord. Either way is good. Let's head over to our survivor world and let's start building this thing up. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed the time lapse. Something I've been working a little bit harder on recently is to try and make my time lapses a little bit more interesting, have some better angles, just try a little bit harder with replay mods. So I hope that came through. If not, still kind of learning at it, so maybe leave some tips for me down below to say how you might want to see the replay mods look a little bit more interesting. I do generally tend to find replay mods to be a little bit boring when they're literally just showing you build the design and panning over one section. Personal opinion, that's why I thought I'd try and make it a bit more interesting, and I think I have, but you can let me know below if you think that's the case. But anyway, I think the point of this is now the blaze farm is now complete, which we're heading over to right now. I've reloaded in a couple days later because I had to sort some stuff out. Didn't have time to record immediately after I built it, but we are not too far away. Luckily, we're right next to the wither skeleton farm right there, which I have to say I still really love. I think it still looks pretty cool, and every now and then I'll come back here just to have a look at it. And actually, it's been a bit of an inspiration for what I'm considering to do with a new farm, with a gold farm, actually. Yeah, we'll get into more details of that later on, but we've got some other news to deal with, or sorry, some other business to deal with, should I say. And that is down here in our new wither skeleton farm? No, in our new blaze farm. What am I talking about? So, if you saw the time lapse, you're probably wondering what was happening in terms of the little box here. So actually, first of all, let me get rid of this dude, and we're gonna have to get rid of this guy over here as well. See you later, mate. Get wrecked. So the box you see here is basically what I was building in. So as part of wanting to make things look a little bit better, I decided to make a little enclosure for it, and I'm actually going to make a direct tunnel to fly in and out of, so we don't have to actually deal with any part of the nether at some point. I'm probably going to do that immediately after this at some point, because I want to cover it up. But the idea was to make some sort of box to keep it in, or some sort of surrounding where you don't actually feel like you're going into the nether, and the tube should accentuate that at some point as well. So I'll take care of that in a sec. But essentially all I did was I had a bunch of nether brick from the piglin bartering farm, and I had a bunch from when I tore down most of this nether fortress here. And yeah, so I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to build this up. So I cleared out the area that I wanted, made it literally just a little bit bigger than the actual farm itself. So now we've got a nice little box for it to be covered into, and it won't look as stupid or as lazy once I have the tube. But that's nor here nor there. And I think the most important takeaway from me building this blaze farm was that I absolutely hate blazes, and also I'm dumb. But I think if you've watched any of my episodes, you've probably figured out that I'm pretty dumb anyway. So number one, the point of what the first thing I should have done before I did anything was created the little chambers here behind me, like this one and the yellow one, which you can't see. There you go, a little corner of over there. I should have built these before I started building any other part of this farm, but because of use of Lightmatica and me using layer mode and being super specific with stuff and not liking to go past a layer, which is pretty lame at this point, to be honest with you, I should probably get rid of that habit, but I do tend to have a habit of that. I ended up having to go through absolute hell, and let me tell you, there is no more annoying a spawner than a blaze spawner, because no matter what you do, as you probably saw from the replay mod, these things were covered in glowstone blocks. So they were encased and they were covered in like full light blocks, and they still managed to spawn. But anyway, I think that's nor here nor there either, because at the end of the day, the build has been done. I have learned that blazes are a real pain in my arse, and hopefully I won't have to ever deal with them again. But I think the setup of this whole farm was pretty nice. And it was pretty straightforward as well, actually. Ultimately, the hardest part about building this farm, it took like 2 hours, maybe a little bit more than 2 hours. But really, it was because of the freaking blazes. Either way, everything works good. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and switch that on so we can see some things working. There we go. We already have blazes coming into our little section here. And yeah, so I did a little AFK session. Everything ran well. I actually ran this for around 8 hours or so. And to be honest, with 8 hours, it's not bad. So actually didn't get as many drops as I thought I would. I might have messed something up. Maybe I AFK'd wrong. There's definitely some weird thing that might have happened in the whole situation that I didn't do correctly. But again, it's not a huge issue because I got what I needed at the end of it. So you can see huge piles of blazes over here. And if we go into free cam mode, which I love to do nowadays, because honestly free cam mode is the shiz. Where am I? Somewhere in here. Yeah, so I have all the blazes are being picked up. Everything seems to be working good. None of the mechanics have gone wrong, and the fact that I've AFK'd and it's ran well seems to be good. I don't know if I lost any drops or whether I lost any shulker boxes in the process. I don't think I did. If I'm honest, I don't imagine that I did. I've used this shulker box loader a few times before and never really had any issues with it, so it should be fine. But you know, just you know, in my opinion, I was a little bit worried that I might have lost something, but we seem all good for now. Anyway, everything seems to be working as intended, so we're all good. And before we pack away, you know, we're going to do the old one swipe wonder, give ourselves quite a few levels out of this as well. Actually, it makes a good XP farm, but probably not one I'm ever going to use for XP anyway. So the results, excuse me, rude. So the results in all of this, I guess, were somewhat successful because we got 8 boxes of blaze rods, which is pretty good. Having looked at the calculations from last time when I did an AFK session at my single blaze spawner, which I completely forgot that I still have a blaze farm anyway, which isn't, you know, again, doesn't really matter. But I have a blaze farm, and having AFK'd at that last one, I think I got like 3 shulker boxes in a much longer space of time. So this definitely seems way more efficient. Not as efficient as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping for a few more shulker boxes, but when you consider the fact that this is like 4 double chests worth of blaze rods, not too bad. And considering most of this is going to go down to blaze powder, which is going to be like multiplied, I think by 3. I forget how much a blaze rod goes down to. In fact, let's have a quick peeky poo. Okay, so it's going to end up being like 16 shulker boxes of blaze powder, so we're looking good. In fact, we're going to go ahead and take these because we're going to be leaving. The extra blaze rods were ones that I just happen to have in my inventory. You do end up picking a few of these up, unfortunately. It is a bit annoying, but it's, again, nothing game breaking in all of this. So I think it's time we head back to the brewing station, because we're going to go ahead and add this to our little list of things that we have accomplished. And actually, I'm going to need to add this blaze powder to 2 things, but let's go back to the potion brewer, and then we'll talk about that a little bit more. So here we are back again at the brewing station, and things are looking mighty fine if I do say so myself. Excuse the lag, there's a lot of hoppers around here. I might be doing some lag optimization around my island soon, but you know, that's a story for another day. But as far as the situation around here goes, we are looking good. So we have topped up the blaze powder, and we now have strength potion, which actually, hold on, seeing as though we're here, and I should have done this a little while ago. Go ahead and add that. Excellent. Now we have a labeled strength potion, and honestly, just realized that this is not dark gray, which is also going to hurt my OCD. So let's do a little bit of this. Here we go. That looks a little bit better now. I'm happy and can live with my OCD, and I'll go ahead and take this box for later on storage. But you can see strength potion has been added, and we have also gone ahead and filled up the blaze powder for the actual brewer itself. I have topped up with many boxes actually, so there should be no real need for blaze powder anytime soon. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and cheat myself into spectator. I know, cheating not allowed, but hey, it's my world, so screw you. You can see here we have a good, what's that, 7 shulker boxes worth of blaze powder, which should be more than enough. Solved a little bit of an issue I had with a locking hopper here as well, which was not good news. But yeah, so everything here is looking good. Everything's nice and straightforward. We are still missing 2 things. So we're missing the rabbit's foot, and we are also missing the... what's supposed to go here? We're also missing the magma cream, which, you know, I've explained this many times. It's not necessary. It was kind of an extra one. I really wish now I just built it without it actually having that module, because I'm going to feel like I hate myself until I get it. But a magma cream farm should be really straightforward. I could even use a spawner, or I could even use... I could potentially use what do they call them? The basalt deltas to make a really good farm in as well. I'll consider that. Maybe that'll be something that I'll save for another episode, but, you know, that's good. But as far as the brewer is concerned, we're almost close to completion at this point. We just got the rabbit's foot to get, and honestly, the rabbit's foot is one that a farm that I've been working on. I've kind of got a design for it, but I don't really like it, so... you know, it's just kind of one of those things where I'm just like, oh, I really can't be bothered with it. But, you know, maybe I'll sort that out soon enough. Who knows? We'll figure that out later on. But as for now, that should be the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed. Obviously, like and subscribe if you did. The next episode, we're probably going to be tackling... well, I'm not sure what we're going to be tackling, because we've got a couple things to do. I want to make some renovations around the island here, because I've got some things I need to take care of around here. Some things I've already started working on. There's a few things that need to be done. So I'm going to consider either doing house renovations next episode, or we're going to do a project under the name of NetherHub project thingy. I don't know. Either way, tune in for the next one. You'll figure it out then. I'll figure it out in the meantime. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.